Beth, you can send my next client in, please. Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm going to be your nutrition counselor today. What's your name?
I'm John.
Nice to meet you. Go ahead and have a seat, John.
Alrighty.
So how are you today?
Good, good. It's been a busy day, cold day.
Very cold. Yes, I'm not a fan of the cold. Are you?
No, we just came from Southern California where it's about 80 degrees today, so.
Wow, they are very lucky. Have any big plans for this holiday week?
Just eat.
Eat? Yeah.
Eat and pay for it later. I guess I'll exercise after Thanksgiving.
Are you really into exercising?
I do. I exercise a lot.
What's your favorite form?
Bicycling, whether it's mountain biking, road biking, or taking spin classes at the gym.
Nice. How often do you bike?
Probably 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow, that's really impressive. You cannot ever get me to go on a bike. Do you do anything else for exercise?
Lift light weights, nothing too crazy, but
Right.
I do that just to maintain my self.
Well, that's good. So on your chart, I did see that you lost a whole bunch of weight. Did that biking contribute to that?
I think so. That, and I started doing a Jenny Craig diet.
Wonderful. How did you like that experience?
It wasn't bad. It was, I mean, the food was there. It was, portion control was the big thing.
Okay.
But the food wasn't bad, and I stuck to it pretty religiously for a while.
Good.
And I lost a significant amount of weight,
How much weight?
about 50 pounds.
Wow, very impressive.
And then when we moved back to Kentucky, I kind of slipped a little bit and put some back on. So
Okay.
I went back on Jenny,
Okay.
and now I'm back on track down to my normal weight.
Well, good. I'm happy to see that you're being proactive about keeping that weight under control. So do you mind if we go ahead and get started with our session for today?
No.
All right. So the way that this session is going to work, I'm probably going to ask you a couple of questions right off the bat, and then we will kind of go over the reason for you being here and what that means from a dietary standpoint. So I see on your chart that you are here because of your high blood pressure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How much do you know about high blood pressure?
Pretty much that it contributes to strokes, heart disease, and
Okay.
whatnot.
Okay, so just a quick little overview of what high blood pressure is. It is just excessive force on your arteries inside your body. And that excessive force can lead to damage and cause those things, like you said, like the stroke and so on. So the good thing with high blood pressure is that with medication and proper diet, you can very easily control that. So are you on any types of medications right now?
Yes.
Okay, and what are those?
I take hydrochlorothiazide for the blood pressure,
Okay.
and then I take a statin drug for cholesterol,
Okay.
and then I just take some vitamin supplements.
Okay. What type of vitamin supplements?
Prostate, SR,
Okay.
and I also take a baby aspirin, 81 milligrams daily.
Okay. And when did you go on your blood pressure medication?
Probably in my mid-30s.
Mid-30s, okay. And did your doctor kind of allude to that being because of a family history of that, as a genetic component, that type of thing?
Yes, genetics, and I'm retired now, but I had a stressful career in law enforcement.
Oh, okay. How many years were you on the department?
33.
Wow, well thank you so much for our service. So now that you kind of understand what that high blood pressure is, we are going to go into what a low sodium diet is and how long it kind of takes to implement those changes to your diet, and talk about certain goals. Because I did a little bit of research on Jenny Craig, and you did weekly weigh-ins, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how did you feel about those weekly weigh-ins?
That's kind of one of my main motivating factors, was the being held accountable.
Okay.
So I think that those weekly weigh-ins helped.
Okay.
Since I've lost the weight, I initially went down from once a week to once every other week, and because I have been successful up till now, I'm only going in there once a month.
Okay, great. And how do you feel about coming in for another follow-up visit as kind of that holding yourself accountable?
I'm totally on board with that.
Okay, great. That's wonderful to hear. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into that low sodium diet. Do you kind of understand what low sodium diet entails?
I'm just guessing less salt
Less salt.
intake.
Okay, yeah, in really, really simple, basic terms, that is exactly what it is. We want to make sure that somebody that has high blood pressure is only consuming about 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. Do you kind of know how to gauge that intake
I
at all?
have no clue.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. So I kind of like to describe your daily intake of salt as being one of those little salt packets that you would get at a restaurant. Do you know what I'm talking about there? Okay. How do you feel about that being all the salt you can have
In a day?
in a day?
Sounds awful low to me. But
It is, but the good thing is with the low sodium diet, it really places an emphasis on fresh fruits and vegetables. What are your thoughts on that?
I could do fresh fruits and vegetables, although
Okay.
a lot of times because they're probably lighter, I don't feel like I get full
Okay.
with those.
All right. Well, that makes sense. So when we're planning our goals, we should probably think about that. How you like to eat a lot of food, which I am a volume eater too. The good thing is when you eat fruits and vegetables, you can have a lot of them. So let's get into this low sodium diet and how long it's going to take to implement that a little bit more. I love this worksheet because it breaks it down into 3 different weeks that you kind of make those changes to your diet. So the first week, what we want to do is kind of reduce some of the major culprits that contain sodium. And those major culprits can be seen on this worksheet, and it is called the Salty 6. So the Salty 6 is bread and rolls, cold cuts, and cured meats, pizza, poultry, soup, and sandwiches. Does that make sense to you?
I see where they're salty.
Okay. Which one do you think has the most salt?
If I had to guess, I would say cold cuts and cured meats.
You're definitely right on that one. The cured meats, they have to be preserved with something, and they do that by sodium. Now, these cold cuts and cured meats kind of go hand in hand with these sandwiches. So, does it make sense that we're going to kind of try to cut back on some of these things and throw in some more fruits and vegetables throughout these next 3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is kind of go over your 24-hour recall with you. And I want to go over that 24-hour recall and pinpoint some of the things on this Salty 6 that you think that you can probably change. And hopefully we can set some goals for you that we can try to work on achieving over the next 3 weeks before I see you again. How does that sound?
Okay.
Great. All right. So this is your 24-hour recall. And it says that you started your day off with having a banana and an egg with a wheat tortilla.
Yes.
Is that something that's typical for you, or do you usually?
That's very, very typical. That's for the last several years. That is my breakfast.
Really? What was it before that?
Cereal, cold cereal.
Cereal? Okay, what type of cereal?
Cheerios, primarily.
Okay. What type of Cheerios was it?
Regular.
Regular. Okay, not even the honey nut. That's awesome. All right. And it also says that you had that fat-free yogurt. What type of yogurt is that?
Yoplait.
Yoplait?
Greek.
Greek, great. Greek yogurt, if you didn't know, is very high in protein when compared to a regular yogurt. So that is a great choice to make, especially if you want to help keep yourself fuller longer.
Okay.
The next thing it says you had was a nutrition bar. Is that something that you normally have?
Yeah, I normally have those post-workout, so I finished my spin class at about 10:30,
Okay.
and then I went out and had a nutrition bar.
Okay, what type of nutrition bar is that?
It's a Jenny Craig bar.
Okay.
They average like 110 calories.
Okay.
I don't know what the salt is in those.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely take a look. Do they come individually packaged or is it in a box?
It's in a box with they have wrappers, but there's no writing on the wrappers.
Okay. All right. So after your nutrition bar and your workout, it says that you have a Healthy Choice chicken noodle soup. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So as we learned from the Salty Six, soup is a very big contributor to that sodium intake for the day. So is that chicken noodle soup something that you normally have?
No, not daily. I have it about 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. All right. That's not too bad at all. Now, when you pick out your soups, I see that this is Healthy Choice. Who is the one that is doing the shopping in your household?
My wife primarily does it.
Okay.
However, I do go along to carry the bags.
Okay. Well, that is really kind. So with this Healthy Choice, is it you that made that decision or was it your wife?
I think that was me, as a matter of fact.
Okay. And what made you choose a Healthy Choice over the regular?
I just saw it on the counter. I saw Healthy Choice, and it was fewer calories.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily looking at the salt intake at that time. I was more looking at the caloric intake.
Okay. So you said you looked at the caloric intake, which means you're looking at the nutrition label. How do you feel about looking at nutrition labels?
It doesn't bother me if I know what I'm looking for.
Okay. So you obviously know how to read the calories. How comfortable do you feel with sodium?
Well, up till now, I guess I really haven't even been paying much attention to the sodium.
All right. Well, one thing I will add to that nutrition label and sodium aspect is that I like to tell my clients to keep their sodium intake under 270 milligrams per serving. So if you looked at that soup, I'm going to guesstimate that it is approximately 300 or so milligrams per serving. And those cans are typically 2 servings. So when you say you have this Healthy Choice chicken soup, how much are you having?
Can.
A can? Okay, no, there's no need to feel bad about that. Everybody wants that warm soup, especially on these cold days, right? All right, so the next thing we have is a tangerine. Do you usually have some type of fruit with your lunch?
I try to as a dessert or
Okay.
something.
That's a really great way to look at it. I love putting dessert as a healthy option. So following that tangerine, it said that you had some almonds a little bit later. How much did you have?
The little scoop.
A handful? Great. Okay. And what flavor were those almonds?
They were just regular almonds and sea salt.
And sea salt. Okay. So have you ever thought about almonds being a culprit for high sodium?
Not until now.
Okay. Well, the good thing is, after going over this 24-hour recall, there is not a lot that you need to change for this typical day. I did see on your assessment forms that you ate out frequently. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, so that might be some place that we can kind of look into after the session and kind of make some goals towards that area a little bit later. So has everything I've said up until this point made sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to some goal setting. How does that sound?
Okay.
Alright, so after looking at this 24-hour recall and looking at this Salty 6 worksheet, I'm going to have you create at least one goal, probably 2 if you're comfortable with that. And they're going to be goals relating to the consumption of these Salty 6 foods. Got that?
Yeah.
Alright, so with goals, we like them to be extremely specific. So I want you to pick one of these items and say how many times you're going to, say, reduce it or change it up a little bit, and what time of day that you're probably going to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know I'm gonna.
Okay. Alright, so out of these 6, which is the first one that you would like to change?
Actually, soups.
Soups. Okay. So I like my clients to go ahead and write their own goals down because it kind of helps solidify in their mind a little bit. Are you comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead and write down how you would like to change your soup intake.
My first goal would be to cut down my soup intake by at least half.
Okay.
I think I can do that. So reduce my soup intake by half of my current intake.
Which is what?
About 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a great goal. So
Okay.
are you willing to set a second one?
Yeah, I think I could do breads and rolls.
Okay.
Same thing. I think I can cut that in half.
Okay.
So goal number 2, reduce bread and roll intake by half of my current amount.
All right. Those are 2 great goals. Now I'm going to use this scaling on you. How likely do you think you are to achieve your first goal with this soup?
I think I'm pretty likely. I think that's pretty easily obtainable. So I would say likely.
Okay, great. And what about that second goal with the bread and rolls?
That's going to be a little bit tougher because if I have a sandwich, obviously I have bread, or you go to restaurants and they feed you bread and stuff. So it's going to be tougher. I'll say probably about half, about as likely as not. So.
Okay. Well, the good thing about that one goal is that it's really easy to get breadless options at restaurants. So like Jimmy John's, for instance, they offer an unwich, which is your sandwich just wrapped in lettuce. So I feel like you're very strong-willed and you are going to be able to achieve goal number 2 with the bread and rolls, even though you're a little bit leery about some of the barriers with that. So now that we're done setting up our goals, is there anything else that you would like to talk to me about today?
No, I think I've got a pretty good understanding of what I need to do.
Good.
So.
All right, that sounds great. Well, I just want to do a quick little recap. So we got this session started off by talking about what high blood pressure is and what kind of some of the what that causes. Then we got into how I wanted you to stay under that 2,300 milligrams a day of sodium and 270 milligrams per serving. Does that all ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay. And once we did that, we kind of moved on to our culprits of the 6 salty foods, or the salty 6 as they call it. And you said you were going to have some issues cutting out the bread and the soup. So that's why we made the goals for that. Is there anything else that you think you would like to go over just a little bit more, or no?
No, I think I've got a pretty good understanding.
Okay, well, since that first worksheet we talked about said that we would meet in approximately 3 weeks, are you okay with a December 12th follow-up appointment?
Yes.
Okay, and does an 11 o'clock appointment work?
Yes.
Okay, well, I will send you home with these goals, and I will meet with you on the 12th.
Okay.
All right, well,
Sounds
thank you
good.
so much, John, for
Thank you.
everything today, and I look forward to working with you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.